All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Uneducated Economist here. So I have a Miss Kimmy with me today. We're going to be talking a little bit about her inspirational story. I caught a little bit of what she has gone through over the last couple of years, few years, and I find it to be quite intriguing. And I thought her sharing her story with us could inspire a lot of us who have been in that 9 to 5 grind, trying to figure out what it is we need to do with our lives. Miss Kimmy has kind of figured out a little bit of her way in this world, and I wanted to get her story. So thank you, Kimmy, for being with us today. Can you introduce yourself a little bit and just kind of tell us just a slight a little bit about your background?
Sure. Well, thank you for having me, first of all. Um, I am a mother of two, hardworking single mom. I live in a very small town. I'm a portrait photographer by day. I'm kind of a hobbyist drummer in the evening too. So those are sometimes paying gigs, but we're here to talk about my photography business. I basically for the last 10 years, I've been just mastering my craft. And over the last 5 years or so, I've really been able to make the money appear. And now I'm at a point in my business where I've gone from buying my first camera and trying to figure out how it works to now I only work 3 months in the summer and I have my whole year's income and I work out on my house and have family time and all the things that I really love to do most of the year. And I really love being that seasonal. So that's my goal is to just work as little as possible and be comfortable. So
Wow. So you figured out a way to get through life by only working 3 months out of the year? Oh my gosh, that's incredible, Kimmy. That's so. Tell us before you found your gig, what were you doing? Like, I mean, you don't have to get too specific on where but let's kind of like, what was life like before you found your gig?
well, I worked I worked a lot. I had a child very young at first. My second came later, and that was a lot easier. I was much more prepared. But the first one, I was freshly 18 when I had her, and I was at that point in my life ready to go to college. So I worked and I went to college and I had a baby. So I think that set the tone for the rest of my life. I never slept again. But I I worked all kinds of jobs, mostly just anything I could get by paycheck to pay for the daycare, to pay for the apartment and the car payments and insurance and everything I could. I was in cable. I worked at a cable company taking phone calls for upset customers. Not the dream job, but it paid. um, and it consumed me. Listening to people upset all day was a hard job. And, I kind of bounced around. I never had anything very stable, not very stable. I wanted really stable in my life. I worked for a debt collection agency. I've worked in every fast food place under the sun, from grease trap cleaner to upper management. I wasn't afraid of working. I just never found the thing that made me really happy, you know.
Mhm. And
So,
so here you are. You're working 9 to 5. You got the dead end jobs. We're just making the bills, whatever. But you found a passion. You like taking pictures, right? So tell me a little bit about that. So you're working the 9 to 5 job, but you're taking pictures at some point, right? So tell me
yeah.
a little bit about that. Tell me about your hobby and how you found taking pictures or doing your photography, and tell me a little bit about your passion there.
Well, that's the golden question, is what can people find for themselves? How do you find the thing that makes you happy and money? Um I was I'm a great photography customer. Okay. I have these small children, and every year for Christmas and every year for our birthdays and one in the summer, just in case we needed extra, I always bought portraits. So I thought one year, instead of spending another 500 or $1,000 on these photo sessions, why don't I just buy a camera for the house? And I was married. My husband at the time had some knowledge of cameras and started teaching me the basics. And then I'm the kind of person that just goes in 100%. And when I started taking pictures with that thing, I just realized not only was I pretty good at it, but I love doing it. And I started, just with my own kids, trying to set up these little photo shoots for holidays and events. And then I took my cameras to the park, and those moms started asking me, can you get my son? Can you get my daughter? And I would eventually get, can I have your number? And I eventually get my first client. And that was nerve wracking to charge the first time. I didn't think I was good enough. Um, so I just gave away my pictures for a long time. I just practiced and I worked and worked and worked. And I took, eventually, when people started offering to pay and they asked me to change from this hobbyist to professional, that's what they wanted from me. I started taking workshops and seminars and found two mentors back to back. I did a lot of shadowing with other photographers. I did so much YouTube self-teaching. um, Over about 10 years, I think I'm a master photographer. I've got, all the skills that one needs to have to charge regular industry rates that everyone needs to charge in my business. So it just started by, wanting pictures of my kids, and then I fell in love and kind of an artist by trade. And my whole life I've kind of been more creative than, like, say, athletic or math like, this kind of my thing. So it just
That's,
started as
yeah. Well, that's really cool. So it started off really by you already having like this desire to have portraits, and you're thinking, man, why am I paying all this money for portraits when I could probably be taking these pictures myself?
yeah,
And then you find that you're good at it and you start doing it.
pretty
So
much.
really that's really where the moment was, right? You realized right in there that you may not be the professional. You were a little bit worried about taking money for it, but you knew that's what you wanted in your life, right? You knew that taking pictures was something that you found joy and happiness from this, and then you figured out there was a little bit of way of making money at it,
Yeah.
right? So tell me about that moment. Like, there, because I know for me, like when I did the YouTube channel, and I don't want to make this about me and what I did, but I know for me, like at one point, I started getting revenue for the videos I was doing, and I remember standing back going, "Holy moly, I got a product! Like I can do this." Did you have that same feeling?
I did, but I want to say this. They say never give up. The first time I started charging, it was just for, floppy prints, and I would give them away. I learned by my second mentor, I wasn't making money. I was making money. People were paying me, but essentially I wasn't profitable. And, you know, the time and the hours I put in, what I have found later was my tangible products, the product I really could charge for, which was putting giant art gallery museum quality frames on someone's wall and covering their house with their portraits. That's the money. And that's the part that I realized that I'm not charging for the paper and I'm not charging for the frame. I'm charging for my picture, my image that I create. For a while, I tried to call myself a portrait artist. I
Mhm.
they're paying me for my art. That was the moment. So it took a few rounds of me charging different, different types of, well, different mediums I could deliver these pictures on. And when I finally saw that one thing up on the wall, I realized it doesn't matter what I printed on. It matters that they want my picture. That was the moment.
All right.
Yeah.
So you basically found your niche
Yeah.
inside of this photography game,
Yeah.
right? That is really cool. So tell me now, like, there's like the thing that I think a lot of people are looking for is like, how did you know to pursue it harder? Like, I mean, there's one thing to say like, well, I can make some money at it. It's a nice side gig, but how'd you know? How'd you know, or was it just like this the passion that just drove you to it? But how'd you know that this was going to be something that you should pursue? Like, what was it that was in you that was driving it? This is, man, this is it. This is where I'm going to start headed to, and this is going to break me free from all this stuff. Or did you have that
Oh,
idea, or you just like, I'm just going to see where it goes?
no, I at first I thought, well, it was just for our family. But eventually I thought, this is definitely something I need to monetize and create a big business out of it. And I did because, you know, when I started charging for those floppy prints and I would just hand them a few 8x10s, I was doing that every week. I didn't get very personal with those clients in the beginning. I didn't have like these long conversations and learn about their families. I hardly knew their names. You know, that was my beginning. I mean, really, I would find them online, meet them at the park, send everything in the mail. So now the thing that like the light bulb for me was I have to know these people, you know, I have to learn them. I have to take the time to like figure out who they are. That's where I started learning like the people that want to pay big bucks for a photographer, they're out there. Even if you live in a small town, even if you live in the middle of nowhere, even if you're in a huge city with lots of competition, those people exist everywhere. And that's when it happened for me. I realized I wasn't ever going to make money on these park visits where I don't know these people. The value is me, you know. I dress the families. I come to your house. I see all of your walls, your furniture's color, your, you know, paint and curtains, and we match to make sure that your outfits will match. Like we're very I'm a very catered service. So that's when I realized I can't ever walk away because not only do I love it, but this is a big deal. You know, these aren't just let's meet at the park for 50 bucks an hour. Like these are big clients that want excellent luxury service all the time. And when I had the light bulb to say like, okay, let's do this forever. This is my dream. I can dress people. I like to bring them cookies, just little things that I'm a lover. I just like to trickle in all the little goodies and, you know, so when people paid me for it, I was like, well, that's it right there.
That's so cool. So now, at what point were you working this business that you decided that you're going to have to give up your 9 to 5? Like, there had to have been a time that you go like, man, this is scary, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to break free from the grind and I'm going to do this on my own. And I'm going to, I'm going to do this. Tell me about that time in your life.
It was
What was
one,
going on? Like, tell me about everything that was going on.
it was okay. I was working at a cable company. I was married to a active duty soldier. So we were everywhere all the time. We bounced around the country. I was picking up my business and dropping it in a new city every 18 months or and I remember there was one client, my first big sale. She wanted everything. She wanted frames, she wanted an album, she wanted to gift her mom and her husband's mom all of these portraits. She was my first sale over $2,000. And that was the moment I decided if I can do that once a week, I'm making what I'm more than what I was making at my job. Why not
You're probably
do that?
making more in one week that you were making at your job, right?
Yeah. I mean, I was probably bringing home somewhere around 50,000 a year at that job.
Okay.
It was an average pay. It wasn't trash pay. It wasn't luxury pay, but it was right in between where I survived paycheck to paycheck. And there's 52 weeks in a year.
Right.
So we can double that income. And I did. And, you know, that was, there was a point too where I learned like, maybe we can just do this in the summer and do 3 or 4 a week and get them all done. And everyone gets, you know, beautiful. I live near the beach, so we get now beautiful beach pictures, and you know, they get to just line up. I can book them all summer, and everyone's happy, and I get about 9 months off.
That's the impressive part. Like, I mean, there's a lot of people out there who figured out a way to kind of, figured out their game, figured out their gig. But to be able to take 9 months of the year off,
Yeah.
that's impressive. That's like, wow, I wish I could do that, but
Well, ups and downs with it too, you know, like I'm the opposite of a teacher. So all the summertime, I hardly see my kids. That's
Oh,
hard, you know. I get them through the school year all the time, but summers without vacations, summers without days at the beach just ourselves. Those things I miss. But the potential is there too to earn more income. So if I wanted to turn it on for 6 months, I can probably do that and make more. But I also want to make a point to say I'm not making, $500,000 a year or more. Like, I'm comfortable. I'm making exactly what I need to be comfortable. I have enough for savings. I have enough for my house payment. I live where I can afford. But I'm not rolling in the dough because I do take so much time off.
right.
So,
Well, it's something like it's one thing to pursue money because you're have that as a passion. Like, I want to earn a lot of money and just figure out how to do that. But it's another thing to earn money and then not do anything with it. Like, what is it the point of that? Like, you really have to enjoy life. So if you have earned enough that fulfills your needs, well, then it's time to start living. But a lot of people, especially for, guys who get obsessed with it,
mhm.
it just becomes that's the only thing you do. And then pretty soon it's just like the only thing you obsess over and you don't really ever live life. So it's really important to do that. I don't mean to go back and like just keep harping on it, but I really want to know this is one last thing. When you made that transition from quitting your job to going into for yourself, that fear, was there fear of quitting your job?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Not only did
So
I have fear, my husband had fear, my friends had fear. I want to share that your best critics are not going to be your parents, your siblings, your spouse, your friends. They're the ones that are going to rip you apart. I find that strangers are kind.
yeah,
They're
you
like,
can do it.
you're sitting here praising me, telling me I'm doing great. You should hear what my mama one time told me you shouldn't work for free. You shouldn't do these pictures for free. And then I told her about my $2,000 sale. Oh, well, that's way too much to charge for photos. So it
Never could
doesn't
do
matter.
it. Right?
You just have to believe in yourself and be your own critic. And that was how I kind of killed the fear, is just I don't want to hear anyone else. I want to hear what I want to do. And sometimes I have clients that just pay a few $100s, sometimes a few thousand, and it all averages out and I'm happy. So
Yeah.
it took some time to get that averaging, but that really helped too, is when I kind of started to just have like a mediocre line of calm in my income stream. That helps. But
That does help. So
yeah.
you were super fearful that day going in, all the anxiety that goes with it. How am I going to make my bills? What if I can't, sell a photo? All the what,
Yeah.
what would happen? But then you do it. You quit your job. The next day, the very next day, how do you feel? Do you
Uh,
feel like just an sense of relief and freedom or what?
I remember telling my husband, I don't have to set an alarm. And he goes, yes, you do. We have kids to go to school. I was like, you're right. And so actually the downtime was welcomed. I was not nervous, but just I felt free. I mean, I just wanted to work on my business. Like, my business is not one that I can just do photos and edit them and print them. And that's not my business. I have so much marketing to do. I work on my business itself every day, even through the whole year. So I do put about 10 hours a weekend just to maintain my website and get some ads going and that stuff. But that is kind of the nutshell, yeah. Anyway.
No, that's it's wonderful. Like, and this is the inspiring part of it. Is just like, we never know what it is that we have in our lives that is going to change it. Like, I mean, you probably never thought growing up and going through the 9 to 5 jobs and even getting married that you were going to be a photographer making money one day, right? I mean, was
No,
that like on your radar? I was like, man, I can't wait
I
till that
was
time in my life, right? I mean, it was something that, and it comes completely out of the blue, and that's where I think a lot of people need to hear these kind of stories. It's
yeah,
because something very similar happened for me. I never thought I was going to be on YouTube doing, interviews with people and stuff
right.
like that. I mean, it's like that wasn't even close to something that I had on my radar at all. But we
Yeah,
find like, we have these talents and, these passions and these ideas. And, if we find that little niche, next thing you know, it changes our lives like in an incredible way. Um, the biggest part about it is that we are going to experience fear along the way.
yeah.
And, we have to overcome that stuff. That's where I think your story is
Yeah,
really inspirational.
thank you. Yeah, that's it's funny you say that because when I did go to school, I studied English. I did creative writing and I was uh determined to be a published author. That's what I was trying to do with my life. So to have some very different art form come through as my money, that was surprising. But I think that's where people have fear, is that's the unknown, that feeling that, okay, here's what I have a very important person in my life who says fear should always be in the car with you, but not driving the car. You're in charge of driving your car, but the fear is there to let you know, like, there's a risk, we should be cautious and take some caution,
Mhm.
maybe change some steps so that we can accomplish these goals in a different way, but we still accomplish them. And I'm a list maker. That's another way I get rid of fear, is I write down everything that I've need to do, and I also write down everything I've done. uh, some great advice was given to me a while ago to just write down everything you've already accomplished, because it's not always a pile of stuff you have to do that's stressful. But if you just write down, like, today I did this, I did that, I did the other thing, you'll feel better. And that those positive thoughts actually cancel out some of those negative ones, if you believe that. They really do.
I know. Yeah, I mean, all these. It's funny because, like, when you're in the mess of things, like, I mean, for me anyway, like, I was down pretty low, pretty at one point, drinking a lot. I was in depression and stuff like that. And then people would have these little cliche sayings and stuff like that, and I'd be like, "Get out of here." And then one day you kind of pull your head out of your ass and you start figuring things out, and you look back and you're like, "Man, all that stuff makes so much more sense now." It's like it really is the case.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things I never really understood was fear. And now that I have heard it should be there, but you've got to have it under control, that it feels more welcome. You should have a little bit of concern, but you can't let it consume you to the point where you can't achieve your dreams. I mean, I'm literally living my dream. This is the best life I've ever had, and I've had a lot of different lives. I
That's
lived a
so
very
awesome to hear. Good for you, Kimmy. Good for you. Thank you for taking the time to come out and tell your story with me. I really appreciate it. And I know it's going to be inspirational for other people to hear, how it is that you found your passion and was able to make a life out of it. And now you're living the best life. That's awesome. It's great. It's great to hear that.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. All righty, Kimmy. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Bye.